All right, so we are already live and just about to begin. So, a very good afternoon, everyone, to all those who are here with us on Zoom and all of those who are watching us live on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. This is Diksha Tiwari welcoming all of you on behalf of Naval Tata Hockey Academy and the entire Tata family to this very interesting chat session with Mr. Stuart Baxter on football in the new normal. As you all would be aware, these are a part of series of different sports webinars that the Academy and the Tata Group have been hosting for all you sports enthusiasts out there. And this is also the time of the year when the Tata family celebrates the Tata Volunteering Week. Just for your information, coming to the topic, well, when the Premier League was back in June for the first time, I think after the Corona outbreak, Gary Lineker famously said, hello, football. Lovely to see you finally. Really missed you. I think that precisely summed up what fans all over the world were experiencing. Football is back, but without the support of its frenzied followers from the packed stadiums, bars, pubs, gathered in front of the giant screens. However, across the world, fans are definitely finding new ways of showing the love for the game from their homes. Players have discovered how to celebrate a goal with restraint or even not greet other teams. That's the new normal football has come to. And soon as Mr. Baxter would know very well, the sports hub of India, Odisha, will be witness to this new normal as Odisha FC kicks off its campaign in this year's Indian Super League. So before we get on to the discussion mode with Mr. Baxter, who as the head coach of Odisha FC has already laid out his visions and plans to keep the players remain on the front foot, let me shed some light on the journey of Mr. Baxter. So, he hails from the United Kingdom and has a cumulative coaching experience of more than 25 years. The former manager of the South African national side and England under-19 team will take charge of Odisha FC for the upcoming season of the ISL. Apart from South Africa, he was also the head coach of Finland senior team and had managed many professional clubs in Sweden, Norway, Portugal, Japan, and South Africa. Born in England of Scottish parentage and brought up in both the countries, he's played professionally for a number of clubs in England, Scotland, Australia, Sweden, and also in the United States. At club level, he's managed some very well-known teams like Kaizer Chiefs, Vissel Kobe, Supersport United, Sanfrecce Hiroshima, among others. And he's, of course, won the Premier Soccer League title with Kaizer Chiefs twice and JI League first stage title once with Sanfrecce Hiroshima. So, of course, as you can see, if we move on to the next slide, we can also look at some of his major honors as a manager with Hiroshima, JI League first stage champion, AIK, Helsingborgs, Kaizer Chiefs, Supersport United, also with South African national football team, Council of South Africa Football Association plate winner 2017-18, Four Nations Cup winner 2018, Africa Cup of Nations quarterfinals 2019. So, wonderful achievements to his credit. And of course, before we begin the discussion, as is the practice, I would take this privilege to introduce my co-host, Project Director, NTHA Odisha, Mr. Rajiv Seth, who has been really making these webinars informative and very, very interesting. An ex-first-class cricketer from Bengal and Odisha, the first batch trainee and product of MRF Pace Foundation, Madras, coached by legendary Dennis Lilly, played as a professional in England and Scottish Premier Division leagues. He's completed his ACC, ACB Level 3 coaching education program, has coached Malaysian national cricket team in 2010, currently an M-panel BCCI match referee, graduated from Hindu College, Delhi University, did his special management from IIM Kolkata, has also had a short stint with Jamshedpur FC in their inaugural year, handling the administration and operations at Jamshedpur. He's also served in various capacities with Tata Steel before his current position of Project Director, Naval Tata Hockey Academy, Odisha. And of course, as I have been saying, this is Diksha Tiwari. I'm a journalist, anchor, moderator, and of course, I have been handling operations and communication for one of the HPCs in the state, which is the XEBS Ahluwalia Center of Excellence in Sports Management. So before we brace up and dive into the discussion, I expect all of you to be glued to your screens for the next 1 hour. No foul in there. Over to you, Rajiv.
Thank you, Diksha. I think, first of all, you've been very modest in saying a little about yourself. And you've actually been contributing a lot to the sports journey of Odisha, which we all know the kind of major events which the government has undertaken over the last few years. And obviously, your experience and the credentials which we've just seen says it all. And thanks for contributing a massive way in all the webinars. As you have already introduced our main speaker and the panelist, Mr. Stuart Baxter, what more can I say? I mean, look at the credentials. I mean, I'm overawed. I thought IPL was starting, and I can say now it's ISL starting today. So it's brilliant. It's actually fabulous. I mean, I'm overawed with the kind of stuff which we've known for Mr. Baxter, and now having to talk to him for the next 1 hour or so. I think it's a privilege is all ours. So, Mr. Baxter, before I get started, I am taking the liberty of addressing you as Stuart. I hope you have no objections on that, sir.
No problem whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Just to start a little bit about you, so that there are a lot of people who are watching us, listening to us, knows a bit about you as Stuart Baxter. So you have coached in as many as 8 different countries, won numerous titles. What made you choose India and Odisha FC project in particular?
Well, I think in the beginning, when I left South Africa after the African Cup of Nations. I had an offer to go to China, and I went back. I came home to Sweden, negotiated, and then suddenly everything went very, very quiet. And then COVID was unleashed upon the world, So that was me then stuck in Sweden. And 6 months later, I got a phone call from Odisha, and 1, I wanted to work, and 2, I was very impressed by the project that was presented to me. I'd never worked in India, but I had spoken with a lot of the cricket boys about India previously. So it was an interesting project, an interesting proposition. So given the conditions at that time, I was more than happy to join forces with Odisha.
Wonderful, superb. I think that, so befitting to say that pleasure is all ours, and we'll really look forward to have you in India. And I mean, it's pity that you're going to be spending most of the time in other part of India, which is where the tournament has moved. But I'm surely we are going to get a good time in Odisha also with you. So moving forward, Stuart, if we talk about your playing career, there was a very interesting incident where once, while you were training with the Australian football team, you had to be withdrawn from the match you were about to play because the match was upgraded to international status and you didn't have Australian citizenship. What was this incident? How do you look back on your playing career? A very interesting one.
My playing career in total was one of I think a good professional making the most out of a limited talent. I played at top level around the world, but never top level in my home country of England. I played in Scotland with Dundee United at top level, but never in the Premier League in England. But you should never have any regrets. And if you've done your best, absolutely you shouldn't have any regrets. But whilst in Australia, I was asked then to play with the national team and take a sort of dual nationality. I played 10 games, and then before we were going to play an international game, I think it was against Yugoslavia, the old Yugoslavia. They came in the dressing room before the game and said, "Look, guys, the president is not going to allow anybody that doesn't commit to giving up his other citizenship and become a fully blown Aussie."
Oh.
And of course, there were 3 or 4 of us that said, "Well, we want more than 5 minutes before kickoff to think about that one." And so I was withdrawn. And I obviously after that I didn't give up my citizenship, and I moved back to Europe.
That's excellent. And that shows a lot of patriotism and nationalism there. Stuart, that's a brilliant one. Interestingly, before taking up Odisha FC job, you had a conversation, as you mentioned, you've been talking to some of the cricketers. You had an interesting conversation with South African cricket player Faf du Plessis, where he told you something about the Indian sporting culture. What was this conversation about? I think fans would love to know this.
No, it was we were in Bloemfontein, and the cricketers were playing. I think they were playing New Zealand. I'm not sure. And I was staying at the same hotel. I was doing some scouting of a couple of players. I was staying at the same hotel, and I bumped into Faf and a couple of Dale Steyn, a couple of the lads. So I knew them from before. So we were just talking. We were talking about the way cricket was going, and we were talking about a few of the different nations. You know, which direction they were going and what they were good at, what they were bad at. And maybe you can come in and speak with our young players, Stuart. And it was that sort of conversation. But when we spoke about India, it was very much if the Indians are on the front foot, they're very, very difficult to play against. He said, when they get to a certain pitch, you feel like they're unplayable. He said, but their weakness is that they sometimes doubt themselves. They don't get on the front foot, and you've got to take advantage of that. And we were likening that to football. If you're on the front foot and if you're Jurgen Klopp and counter pressing, you can't have any doubts, because if you half counter press, you get picked off. So your strength becomes your weakness. And that was a sort of conversation. And I've had since then, since I knew I was coming to India, I've had a few conversations with some of the other cricket lads that have played over in India.
Wonderful. I think this is where I think India stands to gain with the emergence of IPL and ISL with the kind of players which have come from other part of the world, and the entire attitude of the player, our own origin players, and we have such great talent nationally. It just needs to be sort of groomed and sort of put in place in such a manner, because when you have elite athletes competing with you, your entire mindset changes, your whole approach towards the game changes. And I'm glad that you got these the kind of inputs from the people who have already had exposure of this country in some form or the other. So brilliant. And going forward, Stuart, speaking about the pandemic and the natural disaster as we were all going through, you're not aligned to such circumstances. You took over as manager of Vissel Kobe only days after an earthquake caused devastation, in the city, and spent 2 weeks living in a makeshift caravan in the club park. Share this experience with us.
It seems today that it's a little bit surreal. It seems, was that me? It really does, because it was such an incredible time. I signed my contract with Vissel Kobe. I brought in a staff, and I was going to travel with our president to Portugal. We were trying to sign a player from Guimarães in Porto, and the day before we were ready to travel, all hell broke loose, and the earthquake hit, and of course it was first and foremost a humane disaster, and then it unfolded into becoming a disaster for the club, because our stadium was damaged, our training pitch had a huge wave going down one side and a huge split through the penalty area, no showers. So we were demoted because we didn't have the facilities to play in the top league. And I was tasked with, can you rebuild the club? The president was unbelievably magnanimous. He said to me, he says, this is not your fight. You can go back to Europe. We'll give you 1 year's salary. And I just answered, look, I'm here. My family's here. We love Japan. We look at the people of Kobe. We have many friends. And if you'll trust me, I'll have a go at it. And so we stayed. And the first year was hugely difficult for obvious reasons. The second year we won promotion, we won the league, and we were promoted back into the top league. And the president rewarded the city of Kobe by saying, Stuart, you can sign one top player. And I said, well, I want to sign Michael Laudrup from Real Madrid. Super. And he took his jet, and we flew to Madrid, and we signed Michael Laudrup. And that was, in a way, that was the sort of the recovery complete. And
extreme of different sort, completely.
Totally. But working in that environment was, we walked around in masks because, you know, the emission of gases and that come from the damage, it was toxic. We saw people. We trained, and next door was a temporary estate where they built temporary houses, tents or shacks, and families lived there. And the unbelievable strength of the Japanese people, they did it with pride. It was, we have a house, we are alive. It's our duty to show that we will fight on. And when you started training every day with that as a backdrop, it made it easier to dig in a little bit. You know, you didn't feel sorry for yourself. So it was I'm very grateful for that time now. You know, what makes you weak makes you strong, and I really felt that time was it was more than football. It was a lot more than football.
I'm sure, and that's where I would, if I may just say, that's where the mettle of the coach or a leader counts, because that's how you sort of govern things around you. You've been given a situation which is not desired, but you still put all the blocks in place and try and move on. As you rightly said, there's a positivity towards it. Yeah. And I'm so pleased, the fans of Odisha FC as well as ISL in general, listening to you, it's just words of motivation and so much of inspiration already. Moving on, the president of Odisha FC, Rohan Sharma, in an earlier webinar of ours, famously said that he wants to grab every Odia, which is the Odisha talent. Odia is the short form, the Odia talent to the club, and wants to build a football dynasty like AFC Ajax. Your thoughts and plans on this, please?
Well, obviously, I haven't seen the young talent that we have on the field. I've seen it on a DVD. Excuse me. I've seen it on some short clips, and it's very interesting. I understand the project, and I think for me, this is going to be a manager manages a project. You know, a coach manages people. Correct. So I've got to try and be both. I've got to understand the project and understand how we're going to drive that project, the cooperation with local government, the stakeholders. We need to give them something to be proud of and something that they feel that it's worthwhile investing in. So we've got that part of, and that's more management, but I still have to be involved in that. But then it's the coaching, and it's these young talented players need to develop. And that's what Ajax did very, very well. But Ajax had a very, very clear identity. This is how we play at Ajax, from the 12-year-olds to the seniors, you know. And I think that is also a process that needs to be managed. So I think my job is going to be very much, which hat do I have on today? You know, I'm the coach or I'm the manager, and I've got to manage the project, but I want to coach, and certainly coach, inspire, empower, and prepare these young players both for life and for the football field.
I'm sure, and I'm sure your journey has already begun so far India is concerned, because I'm sure you must have, consulted various people in terms of when you're building your team with the team management here and picking up youngsters. So as you said, you must have seen some
Yes.
clips, you must have heard it's word of mouth, as well as whatever you could gather from whatever is available. And the real experience and the real stuff comes when you actually see them. And I absolutely agree. You have an extremely good track record of working well with youngsters, be it with the England under 19 team or other clubs that you have coached. You have gone on record saying that young players do not require 300 games to be experienced. What do you think about likes of Shubham Sarangi, who's a local boy, Odia boy
Yeah.
in OFC, uh, Samuel Kamaljit Singh, and the prospects of serving Odisha FC and the national team in future?
I would like to think that the talented players that we have, the young boys, I would like to think that they are going to develop. I would like to think that I will bring something that they will find interesting, and that they will find it inspiring, and that they will try and stretch themselves. You know, I think if we can do that, I think we have talented players, and we will certainly do a good job for Odisha FC, but I hope that we're also doing a good job for Indian football and the Indian national team, because I think that's what the coach needs. As being a former national coach, you want the clubs to throw up more quality players so that the pool that you can select from becomes deeper and broader. So that's what we hope we can do for the national team. And I think the only thing that will stop the youngsters developing is that if they put any limitations on themselves, if they can't imagine it clearly enough, or if they don't sacrifice a part of themselves to actually achieve it.
I think all I can say, Stuart, is that you are going to see a abundance of talent here, because Indian Arrows, which is our young, Indian team, is also getting trained in Kalinga Stadium, and the government of Odisha sponsoring them, and AIF, coming all hogs with the baby leagues and whatnot. I mean, sky's the limit, as they say, and the platform is set so well for the youngsters. I think these are the good times to play sport. I keep telling in every webinar which I talk to any sports person. And I think if you have not played sport now, I don't know when you will play. So, it's one of those things. So you've always mentioned that your philosophy revolves around your players. And you want to be a coach that your squad or a player needs. In the age where coaches come with a baggage and methods, how important is it for coaches to be flexible, and how do you approach this?
Well, I think if we rewind back to the beginning of coaching, the first coaching was in the military, and that was very, very much, son, remember what I'm telling you, because if you don't, some people are going to die. And that was the first coaching. And don't ask me, shall I jump? Just how high should I jump? That was where we started.
Authoritarian, yes.
I'm guessing that lasted for quite a long time, especially in my home country. The infamous hairdryer of Sir Alex Ferguson. But coaching has evolved because society has changed, and we've got to a point where the coach has to wear many hats, and the coach cannot just be a one-dimensional person transferring his way of playing. Well, I suppose you can. If you walk into a club with a massive budget, you can chop people whenever you want, and you can just create a team in your own image. Well, you can do that, but for the rest of us mere mortals, I think we have to be able to reinvent ourselves, and also make sure that we are wearing the right hat. So if I've got a young, shy Indian boy that that needs he needs information, he needs coaching. Do I tell him what to do? You know, do I dominate him, or do I put my arm around him and say, "You dribbled there. Could you do something else?" "Yeah, coach, I could have maybe passed." "Yeah, good boy, well done." I've got to guide him towards discovering the answer, you know. And if you walk into a Swedish dressing room where there's two 6'4" Vikings that just want you to tell them straight, "Did I play well, coach?" "No, you didn't. And I'll tell you why you didn't play well." They'll accept that. They don't want the arm around them and dancing around the bushes, you know, they want it straight. So I think that understanding of that, you've got to nowadays look at your players. What do they need? What system will suit them best? Well, I like 4-4-2 as a coach, so that's how they're going to play. No, that doesn't cut it anymore. Maybe before, but even before, the team was easier. It was easier to talk about we and not me. But nowadays, you know, we're in the social media and we're all individual headsets and personal this and personal that. And it's not so easy to talk about we. So you have to sell it, and you sell it in more ways than one. Sometimes they have to jump, the players, and you have to go back to that more military style. But I think the modern coach has to have more weapons in his bag than just that.
Correct. And I think so wisely put, uh, because it's also in today's time, other than the old school thought, you need to be a friend, philosopher, guide for the
Yeah,
youngster, because their needs are very varied. Their needs are
yeah,
very different. It's
yeah,
just not on pitch. It could be
yeah,
something off the pitch. It could be
yeah,
something more to do with which is affecting his footballing on the pitch also. So I think
yeah.
these are the things which the modern day coaching is also bringing it out nice and clear. And as rightly said, I mean, you can't be imposing yourself as a coach.
Well, you know, as coaches, we walk into a new group, and you'll have three already there without all the social dynamics. You have or the technical, tactical dynamics. You have three parts of the group. You've got the ones that are highly motivated and very skillful.
Right.
You've got the ones that are highly motivated but very low skill level, and you've got the ones that are high skill level but very, very poor motivation. Now, normally we gravitate towards the group that are highly motivated and very skillful. They're the ones that don't need us.
Correct.
They will end up playing for India anyway, with or without you. Now you've got to go to the other two groups, and you've got to turn them into top class athletes. You know, the ones that are not motivated, you've got to give them a reason. And the ones that are not skillful, you've got to explain and do some work with them and give them some tools. So, but we usually look at the other group and go, that's my boy. Look at that one. Look at him, that striker. That striker would be a great player with or without you.
Correct.
So, but we also want to be get a pat on the back sometimes. So we do gravitate there. I think those two groups are more important.
I totally agree. And as they rightly say, you got to earn your respect. And this is how I think it works also. It's a both-way communication. It's a two-way traffic. It's just
Yeah.
not one way. And I'm glad we put this in the right perspective. From the France perspective, Stuart, throughout the 2019-20 ISL term, Odisha FC had catapulted themselves as one of the more free-flowing outfits in the competition.
Mm.
Your predecessor, Joseph had molded the side to his liking and had gotten them playing attractive football, irrespective of the circumstances. Do you intend to keep that flair, or opt for a more pragmatic kind of an approach?
I think in certain aspects of the game, uh, when I've done analysis on the team's performances, if we are going to improve our results, if we're going to be a more successful team, then I've got to build on what has already been done.
Correct.
I don't think I'm going to walk in and turn everything on its head. And I don't think I'm going to walk in and we're going to suddenly just play with a low block and and throw everything that the previous coach did out of the window. So we're going to build on top of what's been going now. Now I've had to identify certain things that I think that we can change. I think we certainly need to concede fewer goals, and I think we certainly need to be able to hurt people on transition, so that we need to use the speed that we have in the team. We need to use that better and more clinically. And if we can do that, and we can tighten up a little bit on our attacking and defending set plays, then I think we can build on what's been done before instead of turning it all over. So we certainly won't become suddenly a very pragmatic team, but pragmatic in as much as we know that we weren't the finished article. And so we need to be polishing here and polishing there. And hopefully the players will find that motivating and interesting, and we can sell that to them, and they can then start to move on and move our places forward a little bit.
I'm sure. And every situation, every season brings about new challenges. And I think one needs to adapt to that. As you rightly said,
Yeah.
There could be some fine tweaking here and there and fine tuning. I mean, I think that's a great thought. And, just moving ahead, Stuart, what has been the approach of Odisha FC in 2020 been in terms of scouting and building the team, in terms of getting the right mix of foreigners and Indian players? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, we've already discussed the young players.
Correct.
We have a very young squad.
Correct.
Our home-based players are, I think, probably the youngest in the league. So when I was looking for foreign players, first and foremost, I'm looking for the right mentality. I probably interviewed 30 players that for different reasons said that they would like to join us. I've gone for only players that really want to accept the challenge of, we're going to be together for a long period of time. The whole league is playing from Goa, and understanding we have a young team, understanding their responsibility in terms of encouraging, be a leader, understand what it means to be a foreign player in a league. So when I was convinced that we had the right characters, then I would look more at their technical ability.
Correct.
And I think because of that work that we've done, I think we've signed some foreign players that both the Indian public will enjoy watching, and our young players will enjoy having as teammates.
Superb. Odisha FC, which last year was filled with young upcoming players without superstar foreigners, this year have gone for established ISL stars like Marcelino, Australian A-League player Jacob Trent. Is this a conscious change in setting up with the team with more established names?
No, I don't think so. I think it was important that we didn't give our young Indian players, foreign players that were going to be trying to survive themselves in a new environment. So to a degree, we wanted a couple of our foreigners to have experience of India. Marcelino, for example, Manuel, for example, and both of them wanted to come to us. They both wanted to be with us. It wasn't, I was down on my knees and persuading. It was just talking, and I heard their motivation, and I could see their body language was very positive when we were talking about the project that we have. So we wanted that. We wanted our fans to be able to identify with them. We've got Stephen Taylor that came from Australia, but has played in the Premier League in England. So that is also a very strong character with a lot of quality. So that was also important for our young players, because some days they're going to need to lean on these more experienced players. And at that point, they don't want someone telling them how bad they are and why am I here in India when I could be playing with Wayne Rooney. You know, that they don't want that. What they want is encouragement, and they need somebody that they can lean on a little bit, and he will put energy in instead of drawing energy out. So that's why we've settled on the sort of foreign players that we've signed.
So true and wonderful understanding. Going forward with Macedonia mentioned Macedonia. Fans are especially excited to see the partnership of Macedonia and the last year's star Manuel. Your thoughts on what can be one of the deadliest attack do in the league?
Well, we've signed Diego, we've signed Marcelinho, we've signed Manuel. Those three give me a lot of options in terms of how we will set up. Jerry and Nanda did great jobs last year.
Correct.
So we can play with a 4-3-3 with Jerry and Nanda as the two wide players, and either Diego or Manuel through the middle. We can play with Diego and Marcelinho coming in off the lines. We can play with Marcelinho as a 10 behind either Diego or Manuel. We can play with Manuel and one of the others, or Diego and one of the others, as two strikers. So again, when I land and I see in more detail how that goes together with our midfield players and our back line, how we will defend, how we will get forward, our movement, what complements each other, I think we have a lot of options. You know, it's important that we don't lock ourselves into one option when you have this sort of player. I think we will have a quite a dangerous front line. So
I bet, and that's what I think fans are also looking for, Stuart. A little mention about your recent signing of Stephen Taylor, who's a seasoned defender and with wealth of experience from Newcastle United and Wellington Phoenix. What are your thoughts about it?
Stephen was, when I was working with England under 19s and 20s, Stephen was one of the players that was on my radar. So therefore I saw Stephen break into Newcastle's first team very early. And Stephen did a wonderful job. He played many, many years at Newcastle. I guess, like all young players that break into a big league early, it went a little bit over his head, and he was playing on skill and inspiration alone. Maybe he wasn't eating as well as he should, or resting when he should, and avoiding stresses as well as he should. But towards the end of his career, you tend to do that. Ryan Giggs did it and then squeezed out about 8 more years. So I think Stephen, he went to Peterborough after Newcastle and found it to be a little bit of not a shock, but he found it to be a little bit unsatisfying. So he then started doing a lot of the things that he should have been doing probably as a younger player. And then he started playing some of the best football of his career. And so people in Australia that have seen Stephen regularly, they said he's been absolutely outstanding. So when we were looking for a centre-back, taking Stephen from Australia, we were hoping we could get him more than believing. We thought he was going to go on and maybe go to China or the UAE, but Stephen, again, he wanted to come to us. He enjoyed the thought of a young team, and he's a leader character. So he enjoyed that thought, and he enjoyed of helping me get through to the players. And so he's what we were looking for. Stephen Taylor is exactly the sort of player that we were looking for.
Excellent. Diksha, you have something to say?
I think I'm just waiting a few audience questions, and I have something to ask him as well. But I'll let you have the discussion
Okay.
on the floor.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So another one, Stuart, from fans' perspective, and I'm sure that's top of your list anyway in terms of a tick mark. So, while taking charge of Odisha FC, uh, you've said that you're taking Odisha FC to the playoffs after they narrowly missed it last year would be the primary target. After
Yeah.
spending some time with the boys, has that target level to be maybe winning the ISL?
If you ask any professional, you know, what is your goal? Winning something is always going to be the goal. We're professionals. If my answer wasn't winning something, then I would be, well, then you're the amateur, because this is just for fun. It's not just for fun. It's the fans want to win something. The players want to win something. So, we want to, when we go into professional sport, it's usually we want to make a living. We want to win something, and we want to enjoy our time while we're training and playing. Now, the last one of enjoying your time, it's a bit difficult if you're not winning, So, first of all, my immediate answer as a professional is I want to win something if that's possible. But sometimes if you throw out that my ambition is to win and everything else is rubbish, that sounds very, oh, he's a winner. But when I've got a young team,
Correct.
that is not what they need to hear.
Correct.
I want them to have a target of being better than they were last year. I think if they do that, they'll finish top 4. Now, I want that to be a target for them, and they'll do that through self-development, team development. Now, if I work on that, and that is my goal will be to work as hard as I possibly can to develop the players. And if we can do that, then we can be top 4. If we can get top 4, then we can start talking about winning something. But I think it's that process. So I don't want to have one eye on the present and one eye on the future, So I want to just make sure that we're here and now, and we're making strides at the right pace, and we're enjoying it as we go along.
This is brilliant stuff. And as they say that your small target leads to your eventual target, and which is what you have very beautifully explained. And I'm glad the youngsters listening to you, both in Odisha FC team as well as outside, they stand to be motivated and driven by the philosophy which you have. And I'm sure the senior management of Odisha FC is so proud to hear all these thoughts. Uh, ISL is amongst the top league in Asia. Now you have players expressing their desire to play in India, which was not the case few years back. You have played an active part in recruiting the foreigners of Odisha FC this year. Apart from impressive wages, what do you think are the other factors that are appealing these foreigners to play in ISL? I mean, this definitely required, but what could be the?
Well, I think you're correct. I think that the league is becoming more and more attractive, and I really hope. I was working in Japan in the first years of the J League, and they took enormously inflated salaries to some, with all due respect, players in the twilight years of their career, and I think we've already gone through that a little bit in the Indian League. That is not the case now. And because it's the sporting aspect that is a little bit more attractive, and as by paying a compliment to the Indian nation, the culture and the beauty of India and the beauty of the people of India is also an attraction there. So I think that the package of India with a better league, with better football, with a beautiful country, and a warm and welcoming fan base, I think that is becoming more interesting. And I think at the same time you're getting more quality people coming in, and more quality people giving out the message that we found India to be hospitable, a good place to work. I've spoken to I've spoken to a few coaches. I was one of the staff coaches at the English FA when Stephen Constantine came through his pro license. So I've spoken to Stephen, I've spoken to Bobby Houghton, I've spoken to people that have worked, Stevie Coppell, that have worked and have said the young Indian boys there are excellent to work with. So don't worry about that. Now that message, it echoes and echoes and echoes until we get to the level that we want to be at.
Correct. And another beautiful part of it is, as you said, one is what you brought as a reality. The other one is also the infrastructure which is improving. Look at the kind of international events which have come in to this country. You had under 17 FIFA, Junior World Cup, and now you have the under 17 girls or the women's World Cup coming up. I mean, these are not just the small events to be pocketed just like that. It comes with great credentials. It comes with great faith, and the belief which the parent body and the world has. And I think this is you would have some thoughts on that.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's a very valid point. I remember when playing in India meant, yes, you were paid handsomely, but you were constantly traveling. You were in and out of hotels all over the place. You were training on poor training pitches. You were playing on poor match pitches. It was a little bit chaotic around the stadium when you were playing. So that was at one stage. Now, as you're saying, that has been refined. That has been smoothed out. A lot of those wrinkles have been identified. And so, no, if we're going to get better people to come here and play, if we're going to get a better product, that has to improve. And then when you take on the responsibility of hosting an under-17 World Cup, then you're talking, we can't be throwing out an image of India that is second rate. So everybody's interest is to make this work properly. So it's a very good point, but it's a very relevant one in terms of attracting other people to the league.
Yeah. And this is where we're going to talk about Odisha's sports journey a little later, maybe just in a bit, because after all, it's about the governments, it's about the state administration and the national bodies, AIF doing their part. This is what makes it as a combination of attracting the foreign talent. Moving ahead, if we discuss the impact with the upcoming ISL season to be played behind closed doors, Odisha FC last year was one of the most passionately followed teams with regular full houses. How big of an impact will it have on the players to play in empty stadiums? We see this in other sports also.
Yeah, I've spoken to coaches that are working in China, coaches that are working in the United States, that have had similar bio bubbles. South Africa, even though the South African one was only a couple of months, my son is working in South Africa with Kaiser Chiefs, so I've been in contact with him. And what sort of things were you doing to break the boredom up? How did the players react? And everybody has said that the teams that had the best support were mostly suffering. Correct. So if you look at England, if you look at in Sweden at the moment, the three biggest teams that have the most fervent support are almost in the bottom five. If you look at Dalian, where Rafa Benitez has a host of superstars earning $2 and $3 million a season, they've taken 1 point in 6 games. So I'm guessing that if you're not aware of it, you just don't get up. You just don't get up to the level that you should be at. You've got to do a job to make sure that you're independent of the crowd. Now I'm thinking, okay, we have a fervent crowd. Will we miss them? Well, the younger boys, maybe in a way, feel that the pressure will come off a little bit. Whereas if I can get the older, more experienced players to drive it a little bit, maybe we'll still hit a decent balance. But it's certainly one that you need to address because it is. And another thing I've noticed is the referees. The referees they also have the same problems that we have. to keep their concentration. So we've got to maybe accept a decision that goes against us in a different way now. But it's certainly a difficult one, but it's one that I think we have to address with a strategy and not hope that things will turn out okay.
Excellent. And do you think 3 venues in a single city, would there be an advantage or a disadvantage for some?
I'm guessing Goa will know the landscape better than everybody else.
Correct.
But I'm not sure. They won't have their normal crowd, so maybe they feel a little bit more hard done to than the others. Look, I think it's going to be the same for everybody. I think it's going to be a challenge to keep the facilities in good condition because they're going to get hammered a little bit. So maybe we as coaches have to get a bit creative with our way of playing if the pitches become too bad. But I think it's a challenge that most of us are looking forward to.
And also the bio bubble, because which I guess the teams will need to abide by, because Goa seems to be heavens at this stage. But when you have the whole lot of people coming in with all teams in preparation, things are going to be very different.
Yeah, we've got to make sure that things like constant testing, things like your masks, your personal hygiene, all of those things, they've got to become like second nature a little bit. I'm sure that as we go along, that if the situation is getting better, I'm sure then the restrictions will ease slightly. Maybe it will even stretch to where we can in the bus we can drive out of the bio bubble and stay in the bus and go around and see some sights and maybe we can play some head tennis on the beach instead of running the players to break the environment. So I think we can hope that will be further forward, but at the moment it's going to have to be 100% focus, 100% discipline, both self-discipline and discipline of the squad, and from there, from that very high bar, maybe we can bring it down as we move forward.
So in the same breath, Stuart, UEFA Super Cup scheduled later in this month is one of the first major footballing events to be allowing spectators in phased manner. Your opinions on it, and how will football and fan engagement look in the new normal?
I think it's going to be people are going to make. I think they've already had in some of the first and second division games in England limited. I think it's been something like started 10% of capacity, and then it'll move forward.
Great.
I think if we get no serious setbacks, then I hope that we don't just suddenly take the handbrake off and then go straight into the wall. I hope that we can keep that gradual positivity so that we all start to feel a bit better, a little bit more optimistic. But I think we'll be constantly doing that over the next 12 months probably. We'll be constantly fiddling around with how many people is safe, how many people is not. And the answer really is even the experts don't know. They don't know what is safe. They just want to, if they're going to err, they're going to err on the side of caution. I think that's what we've got to also expect, because I'm just reading in the Swedish newspapers now that 2 international matches have been cancelled because they wouldn't allow them to come into the country from high risk places, because it wasn't a vital worker, whereas some of the vital workers that come in and work from Poland and other places in Sweden have been allowed in. And then, of course, the sporting fraternity says, hey, why suddenly are we not vital? Why are we being mishandled? And I think that sort of toing and froing of what is acceptable, what is not, we're going to see that for the next 8, 9, maybe even 12 months.
Super. In the same breath, I'm again asking Stuart, With the ISL being just a 4 months tournament, don't you think India needs a league, round the year league, to make the players more competitive at the world stage? I mean, this will help AIF. They have wonderful plans. I happen to speak to their CEO leagues department, and we had such great insights. So, just your thoughts on this, please.
I think things like number of teams in the league. I think you're right. I think to increase the league, to increase the diversity of the league, it will put football in most parts of India. I think that's also make it a complete league. I think how many foreigners you're allowing in the league, gradually phasing out maybe one or two there. That will always be a debate on what's better for the Indian talent development contra the foreigners helping to raise the level. We're going to have all of those things, and it's correct that we do. I think that raising the number of teams in the league year after year, I think that is certainly something to look at. Do we have the facilities that are good enough all over? Can we carry that? If we increase the league too quickly, are we ending up with the cost being too high in terms of asking government and local governments to build stadiums? Or do we accept that, well, no, we'll increase the league, but we're playing on bad stadiums there, and there? So all of that, I think, has to go hand in hand. But I definitely would encourage everybody in the Indian game to have that debate, because I've seen that happen in Japan. And that debate has brought them to where they are now, where they have hugely successful development program, a national team that went from that part of the ladder to that part of the ladder very quickly. And so I would encourage everybody to have that debate, and all the people that have got a reasonable opinion should be heard.
Just a very quick last one before I hand it over to Diksha, because Diksha would be having some questions from the audience and the listener friends. There is a lot of talk about this VAR, video assistant referee, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it had mixed reviews from the football purist. And would you like to have a VAR in ISL? What's your thought on that?
Well, I was always an advocate of a system that would help the referees. My opinion was that if we have a system that helps the referees, even in the more mundane decisions, it will increase their confidence. Right. Because as a referee running around knowing that I'm going to get vilified if I get this wrong, with VAR or whichever system you want to use, I thought that would give the referees more confidence in their general work, and we would get the big decisions right. Now, what happened was, I think the system and the idea is correct, but the way that we've used it, especially in the Premier League, I have to say, I see less problems in Germany or in one of the other countries that have been using VAR. The Premier League, where they didn't go to the screen to check, everything took a long time to work out that his toe was offside. That sort of thing, that only builds pressure back onto the referees. So I think that we've had debatable interpretations. So if you've got a video footage, someone's got to interpret that. Right. Now, we've had debatable interpretations. We've had long waiting time, and it's been a little bit chaotic. I don't think that sort of VAR does anybody any favors. But I'm still going to say some form of that, of a VAR, used properly, used more quickly, interpreted better. I think that is still going to serve the game more than it will harm it.
And why not? If the world is accepting it and delivering results, why can't ISL have it? I mean, frankly speaking, it only adds. If you have technology to your doorstep, you might as well use it. You couldn't be dependent on it, but you could always take the best out of it. I mean,
I can remember when the umpires didn't get any help in cricket.
yeah. Well, me being a match referee, Stuart, I can tell you that whenever it comes back to us as this, it's not easy task, and
No.
it just helps the umpire in cricketing parlance to build that confidence that I have something else to substantiate with. So it only helps him. It helps the game in general. I mean, it's a human factor. Everybody can make an error. But if you have technology, you might as well use it. But over dependence of that also, I mean, it's not something which is desirable. But end of the day, you got to have a right mix and go forward with it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I think lovely talks. I have one or two later, but I'll give it to Diksha because she must be really ready with some questions for you, Stuart. Over to you, Diksha.
Thank you, Rajiv. I think, first of all, I think the audience who are watching us, I just want to mention that to Stuart that we've been getting a lot of compliments for you, best wishes for the ISL from our audience all over watching you right now. Really looking forward to your role as a head coach of Odisha FC. I think Rajiv has very extensively covered a lot of topics with you, and many of the questions that came to us were already covered, in what Rajiv asked you. But there's something that I would also like to ask that, when you're talking about ISL, and you had said that, taking Odisha FC to the playoffs would be one of the primary targets when you took up in June. So which are the teams Odisha FC, in your opinion, should be watching out closely this time?
Well, I think everybody's been signing players, and so if you look at Goa from last year will not be the Goa this year. It'll be a changed squad. So in a normal world, I would say Goa because they were successful last time round. So now it's maybe Mumbai that are Goa. I don't know. It's there's a lot of players gone that direction. So I think there's going to be when we actually start playing. All I know is there's going to be one of the favourites that are not going to be in it at all, and there's going to be one team that comes from somewhere that's going to surprise everybody. I hope that could be us, but the other ones,
that too.
the other ones, I'm sure there's going to be some surprises.
I'm sure fans would love this answer coming from you, from the head coach. Well, there's one aspect that Rajiv asked you when he spoke about empty stadiums and the kind of impact it. I mean, on a similar note, football is also a very emotional game for the players. And as a coach, how are you working on this aspect, of distancing as a new normal? How are you working with that, with the players?
With the celebrations. I think it's a really difficult one. It's a really difficult one. I think, it's a young player. I mean, I was when I was at the English FA. We had a lecture by it was child protection. It was about young boys. We have to be very, very careful not to give the wrong signals. That we're hugging them and it doesn't look bad. And I'm saying, look, I had a 17-year-old boy who I gave him his debut in a European match, and we had a free kick with 6 minutes to go, and he bent the ball in the top corner. He sprinted across to me on the bench. He jumped into my arms. I'm carrying him around for about 3 minutes with the players on top of me. I said, please don't take that away, And I would say the same now. I want us to be sensible, but I don't want to take away that spontaneous euphoria that you get when you score a goal. I don't expect people to be kissing each other and hugging and in a pile on the floor. A little bit more reserved, but I don't want it to be cold. I don't think the fans do either. But I get your question, and we'll have to do something. In South Africa, they all do these little choreographed dances, don't they? Maybe we should do that in India. I don't know. Maybe we should social distancing 2 meters, but do a little dance. I don't know.
Well, you have Juggernaut there. They are going to be planning something soon.
There you go. There you go.
Absolutely. So I think these were a couple of questions that I also wanted to ask, and I can see that we are already crossing our time. So without any further delay, I think Rajiv, you had a last few set of questions. I'll give that to you, and then maybe I could just conclude this, and then thanks to it at the end.
Wonderful, wonderful, Diksha. You know, there is one thought which crosses everybody's mind who's been part of this journey in Odisha, which is the sporting journey. What do you think about the government of Odisha contribution to the footballing culture in the state and Odisha FC in particular? Also, your thoughts on Kalinga Stadium, which has one of the best facilities in the country at present. Mind you, I'm saying this, considering the fact that there is only one ISL club in the entire fraternity who has a stadium or facilities of their own. That's JFC, which is my employers too. I mean, I work for Tata's, and my loyalty remains there. But having said that, not very many clubs in ISL have something of their own, and it's at the government level. And here in Odisha, it's the government partnership with the clubs which is making the difference. So, any thoughts of yours?
Yeah, well, a large part of my career, both as a player and as a coach, has been here in Sweden. And when I first came, everything, literally everything, was owned by the local government. The communal support to sport is phenomenal in Sweden. Little wonder that a country with 8 million people goes to every European Championship, virtually every World Cup final, from 18s through to seniors, because the cooperation between local government, and the league is fantastic. Now, therein lies something to be learned for us. So I don't think we will fulfill our potential until we have a better cooperation. I'm so pleased about the cooperation we have with the local government in Odisha, and I think that we have to make sure that we keep our part of the bargain, so to speak. Many times in football, I've seen it all over the world. We ask for support, but what we really want is a handout.
Correct.
We don't give anything back. Players don't take the time to go visit a school or get into to help to empower the youth. Now we are taking on young players. Now I want that to be something that will empower 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds. They will look at Shabam and say, "Oh, look, we can do that. We can do that." I want to see that. I want to see the players taking time to go into the schools and say a few kind words to the kids. Go to a local hospital. So I want to see some sort of two-way traffic. I don't want to see this traditional football. Yo, please sponsor us. Be there. Give us help.
The social responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. The social responsibility. I think that's an important part. That was massive in South Africa.
Correct.
Massive. The players were brilliant at doing that. They would come to me and say, "Coach, can we, while we're on camp, go and visit blah blah blah?" So I think that's integral for getting the local governments involved, and they need to know, and as a country we need to know that we will not fulfill our potential until we have that sort of, we have good facilities everywhere. They may be owned or they may be driven by the local government, but we do need that.
It's wonderful. And all I can assure you, Stuart, in my little judgment of what I have been here for 2.5 years or so, and having worked with the government, I mean, they just don't leave any stone unturned, and the decision making is to the optimum levels. And as you rightly said, sometimes you don't expect anybody to come forward and do things. They should, it should automatically happen as a synergy, as an ecosystem. And this is the place. This is the place, Odisha, where sports is a journey, and they have beautifully kind of crafted it well with all around events and all around sporting disciplines. So, coming here, you would get a sense of, like an Olympic village, or, some kind of a community. of sports, and which is what I think helps the cause. As you rightly said, the kids and the youngsters coming up the ranks and then contributing, and their 360-degree development other than football on the pitch. So
Yeah.
these are
Yeah.
very important thoughts, and I'm
Well,
so
I
grateful
mean,
to you.
sorry, 1 second.
Please.
Well, I mean, sorry to interrupt, but one thing I would say for local government, when we talk about, so let's say we're in London, we're talking to the head of Scotland Yard, and he's talking about crime, and he's talking about the kids, and they don't get guidance and this and that. What I would say is that when you can get more kids inspired and get them into sporting projects,
Correct.
we can help with their discipline, their decision making, their self-esteem, their self-confidence. We can help with those things. And so that you if a kid goes through that program, which the local government has been proactive and responsible for, if a kid goes through that program, he's coming out the other side a well-rounded individual. He doesn't need to play for Odisha FC 300 games. If he plays once and goes through and comes out and goes into banking or goes into being a male nurse, he's still a rounded individual. And I think that would be my political pitch. But I think it's so true. It's so true. And therein lies a cooperation, doesn't it? We can do something if it's done properly.
And it's it's one of the objectives of the Indian Super League to have the development model within each club, and that's just not identifying the footballing talent. It's also the grooming of that talent to the highest level, because the challenges which they will face at the highest level will be very different than what you could groom at a grassroots or at a feeder center level. So you need to work that around, and I'm glad we spoke about it. And I would like to, I would love to carry on and on and on. It's such a great conversation I'm having with you, Stuart. And it's such a big pleasure to know your thoughts. And I'm so pleased that I had this discussion on behalf of Naval Tata Hockey Academy, Government of Odisha, as well as Odisha FC. I thank you once again before I hand it over to Diksha. And thank you, Stuart. I look forward to seeing you here in Bhubaneswar soon. And all the very best for the season.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Over to you, Diksha.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I mean, Rajiv, you've said it all. And all I can just add at the end is that, he's already bringing in an abundance of experience into the fold for Odisha. And for someone who actually understands and believes that a modern coach today needs many weapons in his bag, and the game should be a two-way traffic with the team also having a social responsibility, not just playing, but also inspiring youngsters. I think I can say on behalf of all fans and the Odia community in particular that we are more than excited about the fact that you're the head coach for the Odisha FC as they brace for the ISL, and Odisha and in particular Bhubaneswar is more than ready to welcome you with open arms. Thank you so much for being a part of this wonderful discussion. Really, it's been a privilege to have you. Thank you so much.
And thanks to Rohan. Thanks to Rohan Sharma for putting this together. And wherever he is listening to us, it's good times ahead. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Brother.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Thank you.